Hey guys, today we're going to be comparing two somewhat different watches here. We have the Oris bronze bezel diver 65 and we have the Seiko SJE073J1. Now they're kind of different watches, most people wouldn't compare them together, but to me they're pretty similar. They're in the same ballpark, and I'll explain to you why in just a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at these two watches. On the right is the Seiko SJE, and on the left is the Oris Diver 65 bronze bezel. So the reason why I say they are in the same similar ballpark is because the Diver 65, though it's technically a diver, it really is more of a dressy diver. It has 100 meters water resist. It doesn't seem to be too robust. It feels a bit delicate to the hand, and the SJE has a similar feel. They're thin. They're both very thin pieces. If you disregard the dome on the Oris sapphire crystal. So overall, I'd say these two are casual watches. The Seiko is on the dressier side. The Oris is on the sportier side, but they're both steel, casual, everyday watches. That's how I would characterize it. So this is why this comparison has come about. I'm also going to be selling my Oris Diver 65, so I kind of want to compare them to a few of my watches and have a record of it, and you guys can also benefit from it, hopefully. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. The Oris has a 40mm case. It has a rotating bezel, unidirectional rotating bezel, lume on the hands and the indices, and overall it's a very pleasing size, a good size for the wrist. The Seiko is almost the same dimension wise. It is very thin, the SJE. It has no lume on the hands or the indices. They are polished, and that's about all we have to say. The Seiko does look a lot bigger than the Oris because the Seiko doesn't have a rotating bezel. So overall, the Seiko looks and wears a bit bigger, even though, as you can tell, they're basically the same size, down to the lug to lug. The lug to lug of the Seiko, I believe, is a little bit smaller. So, very interesting size, a very good size for most people. The Oris's case is brushed on top, high polished on the side. The crown is signed with the raised Oris logo, and it has this very nice bulbous crown that is very nice to use, very nicely textured and coinage style crown. The Seiko has a very interesting finishing. We have brushed on the tops with little polished cutouts. It's very visually interesting. The sides are highly polished as well. Same to the similar to the Oris. The crown is signed with the Seiko S, and it's bead blasted in there, so it has a polished relief Seiko S. The crown itself is not screwed down. The Oris is screwed down. This is a push-pull crown. It's very small. It's difficult to use overall. It's not as pleasing to use as the Oris's crown, but wearability is very nice since the crown is so small. Both these watches have 100 meters of water resistance. The Oris is a bit more secure with that screw-down crown. Water intrusion will be less likely if you snag it on something. So let's move on to the bracelets. The bracelet of the Seiko is very interesting, very beautifully finely brushed. The SJE really comes close to the Grand Seiko in terms of finishing. It's almost a satin finish. It's almost does it a disservice to call it brushed. It's very, very nice, very pleasant to the touch. Very comfortable overall. The clasp is a fold over clasp, dual push button deployant, and it sits flush to the bracelet. So overall there's a lot of very refined bracelet. I do like how it connects to the case. A lot of people say it doesn't match, but to me it's a very interesting shape, a very interesting dynamic going on here. It almost looks like the center link here is coming out from inside the watch. It's very very beautiful. The Oris's bracelet is more utilitarian. It's an oyster style bracelet, fold over clasp, dual push button deployant. The clasp is not flush with the bracelet, but it's not that high out, so chances of you snagging stuff in there is pretty slim, but it is possible. The finish is very nice as well, very beautifully brushed. Again, almost satin-like, but I'd say the brushing is a bit rougher than the Seiko's. The sides of the bracelet has a rivet style, simulated rivets. They're not actually rivets. Both of these bracelets are sized with push pins, so no screws. Now let's move on to the dial. The dial of the Seiko is the star. Of course, it has that frosted dial, known as the Frosty, or the baby snowflake. Even though, if you take a look back, I did a comparison of all three snowflake models. This really isn't a snowflake, really isn't a baby snowflake, but very beautiful dial. The hands are very nice. I believe that's Dauphine style hands. Very, very pleasant to look at. The Oris has loomed hands, loomed indices. It's just a gloss black dial, gilt dial. Plays very well with the bronze bezel. I think this two-tone look, understated two-tone look, is perfect. I really don't like it when the center links are in that tone as well, like the recent bicolor release of the Diver 65. But overall, I think this is the way to do two-tone. But that's my opinion. Not saying the other way is wrong, but... So anyway, this has been a comparison, a quick comparison of the Seiko SJE073J1, the first watch with the 6L35 movement. Very interesting movement. It's coming out with in a few newer models in 2019. And the Oris bronze bezel Diver 65 has the Celia SW200. Very run-of-the-mill movement, but very dependable, very reliable. This one, I'm not so sure yet. We don't really know too much about it. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good day, and hope you take care. Bye.